bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sirey. Soy una mujer afro-latina licenciada practicando las leyes criminales, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a hablar de la sentencia de Mónica Sementilli. Si quieren más video en español, nada más dime allá abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latino criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, first things first, your girl got a new full set. Okay. Yeah, I'm so excited to feel back to myself. But this isn't about me. Second, today we're going to be talking about a case that we've already discussed on this channel. The case concluded, and this woman was convicted for all the filth, slime, debauchery, just disgust that she has committed. This is a case of a woman who wanted to give up the high life and her gold and her riches to slum it up with a 50-plus-year-old registered sex offender. Today, we're going to talk about the sentencing of Mónica Sementilli. On April 11th of 2025, following a 10-week-long excruciating trial, the jurors convicted Mónica of the first-degree murder of her husband, as well as conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder of her husband's celebrity hairstylist, Fabio Sementilli. As I already stated, we covered the trial on this channel, but for those of you who are new, or those of you who are returning and want to be refreshed, instead of having to go back to those videos, let me tell you what happened. Mónica and Fabio Sementilli got married in 1997, and they remained married until his death on January 23rd of 2017. Both Fabio and Mónica are Canadian, but they eventually moved to California to kind of help Fabio's really booming career. Mónica was Fabio's second wife, and according to his son from his first marriage, Luigi, he kind of just always felt uneasy about Mónica. The reason Luigi stated that he felt uneasy about Mónica is because Mónica and Fabio's relationship began as an affair when Fabio was still married to Luigi's mother. In addition to Fabio's son from his first marriage, Luigi, Mónica and Fabio had two daughters together, Gessica'a and Isabella. Because Fabio made more than $200,000 per year, he was able to provide Mónica a lifestyle that most people only dream of. Mónica was a stay-at-home wife and mom, and she participated in all the rich activities that you would expect from a rich woman who's a stay-at-home mom in the Los Angeles area. Some of those such activities included joining her local LA Fitness, getting a personal trainer while at that LA Fitness, and joining that LA Fitness's racquetball league. Now, I say this kind of lightheartedly, but I feel like the prosecution in this case spent a lot of the trial discussing Mónica's traveling vagina, or at least that's how they put it. They made a lot of mention about what Mónica did with her vagina. I don't know. I think that's the best way I can put it. I feel like they spent a lot of time kind of discussing her sexcapades. And I feel like as it relates to her co-conspirators, of course, that's necessary and appropriate. But to talk about everything else was a waste of everyone's time, in my opinion. That said, let me let you know the relevant parts of Mónica's sexual proclivities. Like I just told you, Mónica got a personal trainer at that LA Fitness, and it was a man by the name of Matthew Nurse. Matthew was literally half of Mónica's age. Okay, I'm being a little facetious. Maybe he was like 20 years or so younger than Mónica, and Mónica decided she wanted to start an affair with Matthew, but Matthew wasn't having that. Matthew was like, listen, ma'am, I'm here to do a job, okay? And you are married. And Mónica proclaimed to Matthew that she was just so unhappy and miserable in her marriage. And Matthew was like, that ain't my problem. Get a divorce. So anyways, all that to say, Matthew was having none of that. But what did Mónica do after Matthew brutally rejected her? She got a consolation prize. And that consolation prize was the LA Fitness's racquetball team league coordinator. a man by the name of Robert Baker. I think the way that the prosecution described Robert Baker throughout the trial was appropriate. They made mention to the fact that he was kind of a questionable individual, and I would agree with that. Let's talk a little bit more about Robert's past so you can understand why I'm saying that. First and foremost, he was an adult film star. That really doesn't ring off any alarm bells to me. He's grown, he can do whatever he wants to do. It's legal as long as he's not sleeping with kids. Right? Right? That's the part that's problematic because Robert actually was sleeping with kids. During Robert's testimony, he stated that he was married, I think, anywhere between 3 to 5 times. Don't quote me. It was somewhere between 3 to 5 times. And by virtue of one of those marriages, he had a stepdaughter. And Robert Baker left his then wife to be with his stepdaughter. He groomed her, he sexually assaulted her. And then ultimately, he was convicted of 6 separate charges relating to sexual conduct with a minor under the age of 14. You know what else I find absolutely diabolical? When Robert Baker was on the stand, he stated that this minor later became his wife, and the pair started their adult film star careers together. I think that this is the perfect example of grooming. Robert Baker is currently somewhere in his mid 60s. So at the time, back in 1993, when he was convicted of these charges, where would that put him? Like in his 30s? Somewhere around there? And he is having sexual intercourse, actually sexually assaulting someone under the age of 14. And then she becomes his wife. And he proudly boasts about that while on the stand. That's just disgusting. Now, as I told you guys before, I feel like the prosecution spent a lot of time focusing on Monica's sexual proclivities, and I don't feel like it was necessarily useful or impactful. We get it. You want this woman to be painted as sexually promiscuous. We get it. Now, how does that help you prove that she conspired to kill and then ultimately killed her husband? Talking about the affair with Baker is more than appropriate, and it's relevant because he's a co-conspirator here. But telling us that they were swinging and swapping and switching and swirling around America isn't really relevant. Now, how did this conspiracy happen? So apparently Monica was having so much fun with her little boy toy, Robert Baker, that she decided it'd be best to get rid of Fabio because she wanted Robert Baker to herself and she didn't want to have to kind of live this double life. So Robert Baker enlisted the help of a man by the name of Christopher Austin. And I think his relationship to Christopher Austin kind of broke my soul. Just broke me entirely. Because when Christopher Austin was on the stand, he testified that he and Robert Baker were so close that he referred to him as Unc for uncle. He said essentially Robert's been in his life his entire life because Robert's a really good friend to his father. And at the time of the trial, Chris Austin was like 37. So I think when this happened, and just doing rough math right here, he would have been like somewhere in his late 20s, 27, 28. So not to say that he wasn't a full-blown adult. But it kind of just broke my heart because he clearly trusted Robert. But Robert decided to betray that trust and betray his father's trust in him and enlist this man to help him kill Fabio. That's just crazy. So after enlisting the assistance of Christopher Austin, and on January 23rd of 2017, after Monica Sementilli provided Robert Baker and Christopher Austin with instructions to enter her home, they went into her home and stabbed Fabio Sementilli mercilessly. Do you know what the worst part about this is? That Monica's 16-year-old daughter, Isabella, was the one who would return home and make discovery of her father's corpse. Now that we are all caught up, let's talk about what happened at Monica Sementilli's sentencing. Throughout my coverage of this trial, I've made it absolutely no secret that I found one of the prosecutors in the case, a woman by the name of Beth Silverman, to be completely long-winded and just doing too much, quite frankly. And I am not going to say that she's not a great prosecutor. She's a phenomenal prosecutor. And I'm not going to say that she doesn't do her job and doesn't get the job done. I'm going to say she absolutely does. All that being said, I found Beth's sentencing argument to be classless, tasteless, and tacky. I have made it no secret that it is just my opinion that people aren't just going to give away the love that they have for their family members merely because they did something that the person finds unthinkable. This is hard. This is hard. It is a hard situation for anyone to be in. The girls decided to stand by their mother. And I feel like in her argument, Beth made a lot of needless shots at the girls and the fact that they wanted to stand by their mother. And I'm not wishing this on her. But unless Beth is ever in that situation, you will not know what it is like to lose one parent and have the other parent convicted for that loss. You won't know. So let people live in whatever truth they need to live in so they can cope. Those are just my opinions, but hear it for yourself.
Yes, Your Honor. Obviously, I'm sure it comes as no surprise to the court that people categorically disagree with defense counsel's categorization of what went down in this case. This is a defendant who is extremely deserving of the sentence of life without parole. I know from past history in our office, perhaps had there been a different administration, I remember a case regarding the Green Widow who did something similar to this, and she received the death penalty. This is one of the most premeditated, calculated, devious murder conspiracies I've prosecuted during my 31 years at the District Attorney's Office. And as this court knows, I have handled numerous cases involving serial killers. This is a defendant who, but for her actions and her decisions, her husband, Fabio Sementilli, who gets lost in all of this circus that goes on every time we have one of these cases, he would still be alive today. This was a completely senseless murder driven solely by this defendant's greed and her lust, which we saw on full display during the trial that took place over the course of several months this year, based on her desire to get rid of her husband because he no longer served her purposes, and she needed to have a way to fund her life together with Robert Baker, who she chose over her husband, and whether her kids want to believe it or not, over her children, because they never ever even came up in any of the conversations that she had with so many people who testified in this matter. It's incredibly despicable as far as motives go, because again, without her and her plotting and her planning the murder of her husband, he would be alive today. But then you add to it the lengths this defendant went to in order to conceal and destroy evidence, and how time and time again she got others to do her dirty work for her, including her lover, so that he could get the murder done and she could take a step back and pretend to still be this loving wife, which we all know was a complete act. And once and again, it showed through the admissions that she was caught making in the jail lockup, through the letters about getting rid of her husband and wanting to marry Robert Baker, through the entire complex setup of this time frame for that day, shows a level of sophistication and planning that I rarely see in these kinds of questions, these kinds of cases. There is no question but that this defendant was the mastermind behind the murder of Fabio Sementilli. One only had to listen to Robert Baker's testimony for about 10 minutes before you got the clear picture of who was the mastermind between the two. Mr. Baker isn't smart enough to even follow up his lies with consistency. There was nothing that was credible about his testimony, and the jury so found. In addition to that, we had the testimony from Christopher Austin, and while he was kept out of the center of the conspiracy between the defendant and her lover, Robert Baker, he knew enough that this was being done at her behest. And as I've said from the beginning of the trial, this case was about the ultimate betrayal. This was one that I'm sure Fabio Sementilli never could have imagined in his wildest nightmares was coming. That his wife was literally plotting his murder with her lover. It's an absolute betrayal, not only of Fabio Sementilli, the victim in this case, but of her children, who have been brainwashed by her lies and her deception. And that's their choice. They're adults now. If they choose not to face the truth, that's on them.
After Beth spoke, many of Fabio's family members addressed the court, one of which was his son, Luigi Sementilli.
Good morning. My name is Luigi Sementilli. I'm Fabio Sementilli's son from his first marriage. One day, Zarathustra had fallen asleep under a fig tree, owing to the heat, with his arms over his face. And there came an adder, and it bit him in the neck, so that Zarathustra screamed with pain. When he had taken his arm from his face, he looked at the serpent, and then did it recognize the eyes of Zarathustra, wriggled awkwardly, and tried to get away. Not at all, said Zarathustra, as thou hast not yet received my thanks. Thou hast awakened me in time. My journey is yet long. Thy journey is short, said the adder sadly. My poison is fatal. But Zarathustra smiled and said, when did ever a dragon die of a serpent's poison? Take thy poison back. Thou art not rich enough to present it to me. Then fell the adder again on his neck and licked his wound. I wish I could embody this Nietzschean virtue. I always thought that when this moment came, I'd have a holster full of the nastiest, most vengeful and vitriolic words I could possibly muster to do my part in speaking truth to power and righteousness to evil. But that's not what I'm going to do here today. I have no poison to give back to the adder. Because I've come to believe that you become what you behold. And if I hold on to cruel, hateful, and vindictive thoughts, then I too will become a cruel, hateful, and vindictive person. And I refuse to be made worse from this experience. Instead, through my own alchemy, I transmute the poison into a life-affirming vital essence to become a better and more resilient version of myself. That is my metamorphosis. I will now recite one more reading from a work of fiction, and that will conclude my statement. By rights, we shouldn't even be here, but we are. It's like in the great stories, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think I do understand. I know now. Folks in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, but they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to? That there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you.
I felt like Luigi's statement was very tasteful. It was very classy. It was very dignified. He presented himself in a way that I feel like is reminiscent of the descriptions that people provided of his father. He stated that he didn't want to live with hate in his heart. He stated that he wanted to move forward. He dreamt of this day and what he would say, but he has no anger and no animosity because he knows it would only eat him up inside. Luigi was strong. He was brave. I think he represented his family well, and he should be proud of himself. Some of the family members that spoke out, I'm not sure that we heard from throughout the course of the trial, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But one such person that spoke out was Fabio's nephew, a man by the name of Daniel Pacillo.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Daniel Pacillo. I'm Fabio Sementilli's nephew. This is the third time I had to stand in front of the court to speak about my uncle's murder. 3 times I had to stand here, relive the worst pain our family has ever felt, and it never gets easier. My words might fall on Monica's deaf ears, but it's our right to speak on Fabio's behalf. Monica lost the right to call herself a Sementilli the moment she plotted my uncle's murder. She didn't just plan a murder. She lived in his house, slept in his bed, looked in his eyes, and set him up to die. It was cold, it was calculated, and it was evil to the core. While my family was mourning my uncle's death, she pretended to grieve with us, faking tears, letting us console her, lying right to our faces, all while continuing her secret affair. This was the same affair that was ongoing with Robert Baker that led to the planning, attempting, and executing of my uncle's murder. It was so disturbing what we learned during this trial. For example, after my uncle's wake in Toronto, Monica was sending Baker sexual photos from her parents' house. On her wedding anniversary with Fabio in February after his murder, she was out with Baker at a comedy club. She also told people she wanted to walk a golf course in Myrtle Beach to honor Fabio's 50th birthday wishes, but instead she went to a romantic getaway with Baker. I can't even fathom how demonic Monica really is. She didn't feel anything for my uncle. Maybe she never did. Monica always wanted what my uncle had, to be the one everyone admired, respected, and looked to for leadership, the only one who truly mattered. But Fabio earned that with love, loyalty, and hard work. Monica didn't want to earn it that way, so she took the shortcut. She tried to steal the spotlight by destroying the only person who truly did deserve it. But here's the truth. Fabio Sementilli was everything she will never be, and the world now knows it too. After my uncle's murder, Monica personified herself as a victim. That's all she did to fool us. That's how she got away with it for so long, but the act is now over. All her dirty secrets are out in the open. And Monica needs to know, from now on, every time someone searches her name, there are 3 words to be associated. Affair, murder, and guilty. That's her real legacy.
I found Daniel's statement to be forceful, but it was appropriately contained. I feel like he took his shots and he made mention of different things that Monica would be known for, but he didn't do so in a way that wasn't, in my opinion, court appropriate. I commend Daniel on his bravery and stepping forward and speaking out in support of his uncle. After Daniel's statement, Beth Silverman read a statement on behalf of Fabio's first wife and Luigi's mother, Vonda Carino.
This is from Vonda Carino, the former wife of Fabio Sementilli, Luigi's mother. Your Honor, Judge Cohen, I am the person whose life was upended the moment she chose to involve herself with my then husband, Fabio, a married man, the father of my young child. She did not just interfere with a marriage, she dismantled a family. What she took was not just a man, but the foundation of my home, the security of my son Luigi's childhood, and the unity that once held our family together. Because of her, Luigi became a latchkey kid during the week and a suitcase kid every other weekend, living by the terms of a divorce agreement. She was quick to invoke her Italian roots when it suited her, declaring divorce was not an option for her. So why was it expected to be one for me? It began with her taking Fabio from me and my family, and somehow that was not enough for her. In the end, she took him from everyone, with no sorrow, no shame, and no remorse. Having never lifted a finger, she remains blind to the realm of selfishness and sacrifice, concepts foreign to a life untouched by struggle. She took what she wanted because the heaviest decisions she ever faced were whether to sunbathe, hit the gym, get her nails done, or pick an outfit. Choices born of comfort, not cost, and yet even that did not satisfy her. She is nothing more than a parasite who lived off the backs of Fabio's sacrifices and claiming worth from achievements that were never hers to begin with. And with one act, she ripped a father from his children, a son from his mother, a brother from his siblings, an uncle from his nieces and nephews, and a friend from countless hearts. She did not just end a life, she shattered entire generations. She needs to face the weight of that. She got herself exactly where her actions led her, isolated, directionless, and utterly responsible. I thank the court for your time.
I feel like I do my best to present you guys the facts of each case in a completely unbiased manner. I also feel like I try my best not to victim shame or victim blame or do anything, because God rest the souls of all of the victims that we've discussed that have passed. I will not pretend to know the pain that Vonda's in. But that being said, I think her statement was targeted solely at Monica in regards to the affair with Fabio, and I don't think that's fair. When Fabio was here, he was a consenting adult. He chose to engage in the affair with Monica, and he chose to disregard his marriage to Vonda, and he chose to go and marry Monica. He chose this. So to call Monica a homewrecker, I mean, yeah, that's true, but to blame her for the only reason the home is wrecked is insane to me. After Beth read Vonda's statement, and after some additional family members spoke, we heard from one of Fabio's sisters, Mirella Sementilli.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. My name is Mirella Sementilli, and I want to apologize in advance if some of my words may offend. Since the day I met Monica over 25 years ago, I respected her like a sister because my brother wanted to build a life with her. Reminiscing is too painful, and it deepens the wounds. I've spent the last 6 months learning about the depths of the deceit and the evil Monica brought into our lives. Every day has the details of her unfaithfulness, her greed, and her lack of accountability unfolded during the trial. I relive the pain of my loss and the merciless murder of my brother Fabio. And I would often hear him speak highly of his family and his children, especially his wife Monica. He treated her like royalty, purchased a family home on Queen Victoria Street in LA, and called her his queen. He couldn't wait to get home to his girls and proudly posted about his family. He called her Poots. The world is grieving as they learned of the details of her treachery, an attack planned for nothing more than lust and greed. I am certain that if Fabio had known Monica wanted to be treated like a slut by a sex offender, he wouldn't have ever had to work so hard to offer her a beautiful life. I've watched in horror, and I've been put through hell as Monica and the Crescentini family taught Fabio's daughters not to grieve, not to cry, and not to honor their father, and ignore the facts and the evidence, having no respect for authority, this court, and the pursuit of justice. Sometimes I wish I could just shake them to show them that they are being lied to. They withheld Fabio's property, a memento from my dying mother. Her heart was broken, and none of them cared. My nieces should be asking the questions, Why did our mother bring that predator into our home? Why did she let him sit at our home table? Why did she let him sleep in their father's bed? They should have been fighting to uncover how their mother could be capable of something so vile. Monica destroyed their foundation, their sense of truth, and their ability to grieve. It's heartbreakingly clear she never protected her daughters. She was using them. Your Honor, what Monica did to her daughters and to my nephew Luigi is unforgivable. This is yet another crime in itself. Her sentence should reflect more than just murder. It should reflect the long-term psychological destruction she caused in their lives. She had the audacity to demand a trial and parade around like a woman wronged. And in the end, she exposed not only her shameful affair, but the truth of the kind of mother she was. She is a complete and utter stupid bitch. Watching her dress like a slut for Baker, living 6 months off of blood money, only a devil can manipulate a reality to suit her comforts. In all my worst nightmares, I could never have fathomed this calculated plan. I hope every blood dollar you and your Crescentini family have is used on meds. Traded a beautiful life for trashy garages, dirty beds, Pinot Grigio for tubes of semen from a repulsive convicted sex offender. You didn't just kill Fabio, you humiliated him. You let him carry guilt for working hard while you carried on with a degenerate sex offender. She enjoyed Baker treating her like a whore, shopping at thrift stores for slutty, skanky clothes. This sleazeball had $40 in the bank. She even paid for the restaurant bills and the hotel bills, all while leaving her girls home alone. What mother does that?
Mirella's statement was okay. Well, she didn't hold back. She didn't hold back. I'm a little astonished that neither the prosecution nor the judge told her anything about her statement or told her to contain herself a little bit more. We saw this in another sentencing that I covered for Sade's case and Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson and all of that, where Sade's mother was kind of making similar statements, but the prosecution admonished her. Regardless, I don't understand the emotions Mirella is feeling. Her statement was powerful. It was full of emotion. It let Monica know exactly what Mirella thought of her. And hopefully, Mirella feels some sort of peace after getting everything off of her chest. After Mirella addressed the court, Fabio and Monica's daughter, Gessica, did the same.
My name is Jessica, and I'm the oldest daughter of Monica and Fabio. In the spirit of trying to heal from this very horrible situation, I'd like to speak about my parents, of how I remember them. My dad was our pillar of strength, steady, present, full of wisdom. He taught us how to be brave, how to be kind, and how to show up for the people we love. He taught us to climb our mountains, no matter how steep, like this one right here. I miss him every goddamn day. I think about him constantly. I talk about him to my friends, to my family, to anyone who will listen to me, because I want to keep his memory alive. I often watch old home videos just to hear his voice, to hear his laugh. I want to remember what it felt like to have a dad, to be wrapped in that kind of love and protection. I wanted nothing more in my life than to make him proud, to see his smile when I succeeded, and to hear him say that he believed in me. We used to have these family meetings, and at the end of each one, we'd all put our hands in together and we'd chant Sementilli power. I used to think it was so cheesy, Now I treasure it. I'd give anything to just sit in one more of those meetings. I know how lucky I was to have a dad like him. He was the best dad anyone could ask for. I have to remind myself that it's better to have had him and lost him than to have never had him at all. I still feel him around me. I hear his voice all the time. When someone I love says something he would have said, I know it's him there with me. When I got my acceptance letter to UCLA, all I wanted to do was to call my dad and to tell him. When I started to cry, heartbroken that I couldn't share that with him, I looked up and I saw someone wearing a sweatshirt with his alma mater on it. I know that was my dad, and I know that was him telling me that I'm here, and I see you, and I hold on to all moments like that. And then there's my mom, my rock. When you're young, you don't realize that your parents are figuring out life too. It's their first time too. My mom had me when she was my age now, and I think about that a lot. How young she was, how brave she had to be. She moved away from her own life and family to support my dad's career, and she did it without asking for anything in return. She gave her entire self to us. She was always there at every school event, every heartbreak, every milestone. She's the most supportive, selfless, funny, and loving person that I know. And she's strong. She taught my sister and I what it means to be a woman, to show up, to fight for your family, and to give love freely.
I feel like Gessica's statement is pretty much exactly what I would expect from Gessica. I think throughout the entirety of this case, they have been trying to find the good in both of their parents. As I stated earlier, we will never know the pain that these kids are in. And not that they're kids anymore, they're in their mid-20s, but regardless, we will never know the pain that they felt. It was brave of her to address it. It was brave of her to completely ignore the little side comments that were made from her other family members and from the prosecution. She did a good job, and she should be proud of herself. After Gessica spoke, Isabella provided her statement to the court as well.
Good morning, Judge Cohen, members of the court, and all present. My name is Isabella. I'm the youngest daughter of Monica and Fabio Sementilli. I stand here to tell you about the wonderful home my parents made for me. I urge you all to reconsider the picture that was painted of our family dynamic. I had the best childhood thanks to my mom and my dad. I had the most supportive parents who created a safe and loving home. My father was a man that I respected, trusted, and leaned on for comfort. He was front row with my mom, laughing and clapping at all of my school plays. He always asked me about my life, my friends. He truly cared to know about his daughter. Despite traveling a lot, my father made an effort to be present when he was home. He really listened to me. He taught me how to stand up for myself while still being respectful, and told me from a young age that the only opinion about myself that matters is my own. When you go to judge somebody, look in the mirror because that's usually what you want to fix about yourself. I'm grateful to have learned that so young. I get my hard work ethic from my father. He would jokingly ask who would become the hairdresser in the family and continue his legacy. I didn't know at the time that I would be the one following in his footsteps, but I thank him for guiding me to find my passion and lifelong career. I will continue my father's legacy in the hair industry, filling some big shoes, but in my own way. To those who knew my father, you also know how funny he was. My tears would turn to laughter in seconds. I'm confident I can speak on behalf of my sister and brother that we had the best father. Not many people got to know my father when he was home with his family. Once the suit and tie came off, that was the real Fabio I knew. And I feel lucky for that. My mother was the best. She did everything for me. She gave up her career, left her family, all to support my dad and give us a good life. She built up my self-esteem after a heartbreak. She let me wear her dresses to school dances. She was reliable, and I trusted her with anything. She cooked dinner from scratch almost every night, and really emphasized the importance of sitting at dinner together every night as a family.
I felt like, much like her sister, Isabella tried to remain focused on the positive aspects of both of her parents. Isabella was brave, and she did a great job. And finally, after Isabella spoke, Monica's sister and the girls' aunt, Anna Crescentini, did the same.
Good morning, Judge Cohen, members of the court, and everyone present. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Anna Crescentini, and I am the sister of Monica. I'm speaking on behalf of my entire family. Words cannot describe the absolute sorrow and horror we felt when Fabio Sementilli was murdered in January of 2017. Fabio was an incredible man, an inspirational human being who had a larger-than-life personality, a boisterous laugh. He was a person who was loved, cherished, and adored by everyone in our family. To my sister Barbara, he was not only a brother-in-law, but a mentor, a confidant, pillar of strength, love, and unwavering support. To my parents, Fabio was a son, a man they loved and respected. Fabio was an amazing uncle to my children. He was a caring father and an overall wonderful person. Although more than 8 years have passed since his murder, we still have not processed our grief over his death. We do not believe this feeling of sadness will ever fade. Every day my family and I remember him. We talk about him all the time, recalling all the good times we shared, family vacations we took together, camping trips, the many, many dinners, holidays, birthdays, and events we celebrated together. He was a major part of not only my life, but in the lives of my 3 children, my husband, my parents, and especially my sister Barbara, who adored and loved him. What happened was a tragedy that tore through our family and nearly broke us. Although we shed tears over his death, we have not had time to really grieve or mourn him properly the way we want to. The reason I think it is obvious. It is, after all, why I'm standing here today. We, her family, are devastated. My elderly parents had their hearts ripped out. Not only did they lose Fabio, someone they considered their son, but now they have also lost their daughter.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but Anna's statement reminded me much of her nieces. She tried to keep the peace, she provided her support for her sister, and she kind of just ended there. I think she also did a phenomenal job in addressing the court. Following hearing from all parties, the court made its remarks and imposed its sentence.
Listening to the evidence in this matter, I do find that that was the mastermind in this conspiracy that got murdered. Baker did not have the intelligence to plan such a brutal, well-thought-out slaughter. The sentence of the court as follows. Probation is denied for the reasons I have stated. Defendant is sentenced to state prison for the term prescribed by law, which is life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. As to count 2, the violation of section 182, subject A, subject 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Defendant is sentenced to state prison for the term prescribed by law, which is in a case of 25 years for life.
Because we're going to spend a lot of our time talking about different hearings and sentencings and such, I should just make it clear to you because I don't think I've said this before. But essentially, whenever the court imposes a sentence, it will always give its remarks prior to imposition of the sentence. So generally speaking, the court's not just going to be like life in prison without parole. It will review the facts and it will say everything that the court said here and more in some cases. The court will provide its opinions of the case, provide its opinions of the evidence, and then inform the defendant what their sentence is, exactly as the court did here. I found this case was senseless. It was absolutely ridiculous. Because of Monica's actions, her children have to live without both parents. Despite how we feel that the kids should feel, we are not in their situation. I think that everyone that spoke out was brave. And hopefully Monica has more than enough time to repent. Again, I told you guys last time I want to discuss more sentencings with you guys. I want to discuss more motions hearings. I want to discuss more hearings in general. I want to discuss some of the background stuff that we don't get to discuss that isn't just the trial. Let me know if you guys like this video and if you want more videos like this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.